Welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show on our continued journey to 500,000 subscribers. So do me a favor, subscribe, watch, comment, and share with your friends because the chaos doesn't stop. And yesterday was a very solemn day. You heard me talk about it on a previous episode, and I was really, really taken back yesterday. I spoke to a buddy of mine who's been probably my closest friend since we were 10 years old. And he turned around and he said to me, "You can't let this happen. You can't react this way because it's just the beginning. We're only 1 week into the Trump presidency." And again, as I spoke yesterday, Trump, during that press conference, when he was speaking about the plane crash, he really showed that the president, some of us were hoping that he was going to be a president for all, a president with compassion and love and sensitivity and a unifier. He just didn't show up. I mean, this is not the Trump that I knew. I talked about this with Ben Meiselas the other day on my political beatdown show. It's not the Donald Trump that I knew. And I'm not saying that he was ever great. I'm just saying this was unusually bad. He had zero compassion. And he made a tragedy, an American tragedy, into a political event. Sometimes I sit back and I say to myself, I wish to God that I was still there, or that I was sitting close enough to turn around and say to him, whoever wrote this shit for you, not just should be fired, but should be beaten on the way out, because this was absolutely horrific. Now, while Trump is blaming Obama and Biden and DEI for the tragedy, I want you all to keep in mind that this crash happened during Trump's administration. Somewhere along the line, people are forgetting to discuss that. You own, as president of the United States, the benefits and the detriments that come along with things that happen while it's your administration. And this tragedy took place during the Trump administration. Obama kept his cool. And he posted this on X. He said, "Our hearts break for the families who lost loved ones in the tragic plane and helicopter crash at DCA. Michelle and I send our prayers and condolences to everyone who is mourning today. And we're grateful to the first responders who are doing everything they can to help under extremely difficult circumstances." That, my friends, is a statement that a leader, somebody who cares about all Americans, not just the MAGA base, but all Americans, would say at a time like this. Now, I'm not the only one saying it. I'm not saying it and only Democrats saying it. People from both sides of the aisle agree, absolutely agree that the press conference was horrific. I want to show you what Jessica Tarlov said about the presser. Play the clip.
Yeah.
You agree that was unhinged, what he did?
I think coming out, and the first part when he was reading off the prompter was correct. Whoever wrote it, if it was Stephen Miller or someone else, that sounded like somebody who was actually thinking of the families of the people who had just passed away. And then he had a campaign rally in the middle of what should have been a somber occasion. And these DEI policies were put in place in 2013. He had every opportunity through his first administration to revoke them if they thought they were terrible, but he didn't. And
Yeah. Let me say this. I know Stephen Miller, and yes, under any circumstance, anybody, even a kid in college or a high school kid, would know that you turn around and you talk and you send love and sympathy and condolences to the families who are mourning as a result of the tragedy. But as Jessica turned around and just said, it devolved, it digressed into a political campaign within which to shit on someone. Now, Stephen Miller, who probably wrote the entire Trump horrific speech, he said this yesterday. Play the clip.
It certainly is something we better learn from fast if we want to prevent it from happening again.
Well, it's absolutely heartbreaking and it's devastating, but even more so because it's so preventable. As President Trump said today, over the last 4 years, the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, and air traffic control under Joe Biden have been dedicated to a mission not of public safety, not of safe aviation, but of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they've pushed an agenda trying to advance social engineering, political ideology, trying to hire people at the FAA who are not capable or competent for the job. And that completely changes the agency culture. It means instead of spending 4 years trying to solve these systemic problems, all these near misses, instead all that intellectual capital at the agency is spent trying to meet these programs and trying to fulfill these quotas. And it prevents the agency from developing the systems, closing the weaknesses, and establishing the protocols to prevent a tragedy like this from occurring. And it's why President Trump, on just his second day in office, issued an order to re-implement his previous standards and then to declare that all DEI is ending and the agency shall put competence, quality, and qualification above all other considerations. And that will be the rule going forward. But again, we've seen over 1,000 near misses in just the last year under the Biden administration. And we have jeopardized public security in a way that is unthinkable and tragic, Sean.
You know, it's really terrible because what they're doing is so misleading. You know, the concept of a near miss is if in fact two planes come within a mile of one another. And I want you to think about that. Look it up. Look it up. What is a near miss when it comes to this? And by the way, when he turns around, he makes it seem as if though every day we're having these type of tragedies taking place. The last one that happened was over 2 decades ago. Stephen Miller, like Sean Hannity, are full of shit when it comes to this. And don't tell me about DEI. That DEI is responsible for this. This is a tragedy that nobody yet knows exactly what caused. Fortunately, they have the flight recording devices. They're going to go through them. They're going to listen to 10 minutes before what happened. Obviously, there's not, once it happens, that's it. That's where it ends. And they will then respond back to the American people with what really occurred and hopefully ensure that this never, ever, ever happens again. Now, Jessica Tarlov, again, she spoke about how Trump is using DEI as a scapegoat. Play the clip.
Put into office. He showed up with one message. It's DEI's fault. Then Hegseth says DEI. Then Duffy says DEI. And then J.D. Vance, maybe playing a little bit of cleanup, says, well, if it wasn't DEI in terms of the pilots it's very stressful to work with people when we have these kinds of DEI policies. DEI is not a scapegoat for everything. It is, I get it, for some voters, it's what they want to hear about. But you should.
I mean, then my, somebody who I talk quite a bit about on this program, dear old Jesse Waters of Fox News, went on to say that the rollback on DEI, that it's not about race. Really, Jesse? Then what the hell is it? Play the clip.
How are air traffic controllers not essential workers? I have no idea. And this DEI thing isn't just a race thing. Biden instituted DEI quotas at the FAA in order to recruit workers who were deaf, vision impaired, missing limbs, completely paralyzed, epileptic, people who were severely intellectually disabled, psychiatrically disabled, and dwarfs. This was Biden's FAA just 2 years ago.
We need a diverse group of air traffic controllers to bring distinct perspectives to handle the ever-changing aerospace landscape. I'm calling on students and alumni from HBCUs, Hispanic serving institutions, and tribal colleges to apply now to become air traffic controllers.
Okay. How, Jesse, does that even relate? Are you trying to tell me that because you're Hispanic or you're part of an Indian tribe, that means that you're not competent, that you're not qualified, that you can't become competent and qualified? Let me go back to Jessica Tarlov, who brought up irony of the staffing issues that they were discussing at this, again, horrific press conference. Play the clip.
And when you talk about staffing issues, sure, the control room is a problem, but you know what else is a problem? That there's no head of the FAA because Michael Whitaker resigned for months. Elon Musk has been trying to push him out since September when he said you should pay a $600,000 fine for SpaceX, that they're failing to follow the license requirements, constantly on him. He knows he's going to get fired. He resigns. We have no head of the Coast Guard. And they have, in the first week in office, gutted this key aviation safety advisory committee.
Coast Guard.
I'm talking about all the people that take care of us, that make sure that you are safe. They are trying to gut that to install
Biden was
people
taking care of us? Biden couldn't even show up in Palestine for a year.
That's my favorite game that you play. It's not going to work for really? I'm talking about the president. You won. And now I'm talking about the president and the people he put into office. He showed up.
I mean, it's incredible. You got Trump going back as far as to Obama, and of course, now to Biden. When you're talking about what's going on today, you have people in the Potomac River right now searching for bodies, for parts, and for a slew of other things. And they're still talking about Obama. They're still talking about Biden. They're still talking about everything else other than what the reality is. The reality is we're in trouble right now. We're in trouble. And we're going to be in worse trouble if this shit doesn't stop. Lastly, Lara Trump. God forbid a situation should occur, and she's not now poking her head into it. She's speaking to Laura Ingraham, again, Fox, about how America is now going to hire based on merit. Talk about irony, right? Play the clip.
It's shocking he had to do it, but this shows you, Laura, where we are in the grand scheme of things in America, to say that we ought to base hirings off of competence and merit. And that's it. And it's crazy that we even have to say that sort of thing. Right. But you look at the way that this sort of stuff has impacted our society, and obviously it's been a huge problem. Obviously it's negative. When you are hiring someone for any other reason, then you are doing a disservice to the public. And so we want the best people. We want the most competent people. And we should never be hiring anyone for any job other than the best person for that job. That should be the number one reason.
All right.
Right. Now take a look at the nominees that Trump has put forth in order to make his cabinet. Do I need to also talk about who is the co-head of the RNC? And as always, thanks for listening.
Hey, everyone. First of all, thanks for watching. I mean, we're going to be posting daily episodes with reactions and talking about politics. We'll be talking about everything, in fact. So please like and subscribe. Join us on this journey.